lot of my history and a lot of the things that I think about are growing up in our home, the Abbott home place, which my grandmother called the Cedars. It's now called the Cedar Plantation. The house that we lived in there growing up until I was about 9 years of age, Mother and Daddy rented out rooms to help take care of things. It was very old. The house was built somewhere in the late 1860s or the early 1870s. It was built by a man by the name of Schufert, who we understand just by word of mouth was a carpetbagger that came down up north. He built it. It was a party house, and that's why that long living room was actually a dance place. And the stories that we've heard is that he would be there and he would have Surreys and they'd come to town and he would bring a girl home with him, and they would have big dance parties and have all kind of things going on. When Mother and Daddy remodeled the house in 1955, they had to put underpinning and do all of the things to get the foundation. And as they dug those places, they found all kind of old liquor crocks. They weren't glass bottles, they were liquor crocks. And so you could see somebody through the years had an awful lot of fun there. A lot of our memories are tied to that house. I can remember in those years, my dad would come down to Acworth Ice and Cold here in town and buy sacks of coal. And we'd bring them to the house, and the bedrooms would have coal-burning fireplaces in them. We had a great big pot-belly coal-burning heater in the living room. And that's where I actually learned to ride a bicycle. It was a big empty room, and I learned to ride my bicycle in the living room of that house. So it was that large. A lot of my memories were on a bicycle in Acworth during those years. All of us were. It was boys and girls, and we would ride all over town. We weren't supervised per se, but we were because everybody in town watched after us. If you did something across town, your mom and dad knew about it before you got back home, to be with them, to do anything. Many of us had dogs that would follow us. I can remember riding downtown on Saturday mornings in my bicycle to go to the Acworth Legion Theater. I believe it cost a dime to get in, and you'd go and you'd just park your bicycle or just lay it on the sidewalk out there, and you'd have all of the other people, all these bicycles, and then all these animals. Also, the dogs they would wait on us. They would just hang out and wait on us. My father worked for People's Loan and Financial Corporation in Marietta, Georgia, right next to Kennestone Hospital. He worked there for 33 years. And my mother was a school teacher. She taught school all the years there at Acworth Elementary School. And when I was in the 8th grade, they only had 3 teachers. We had Mr. Hamilton, Mr. Bill Hamilton, and we had Miss Mary Edwards, and we had my mother. So I had to have my mother for several classes, and it was a very, very hard year, and we butted heads with each other, and I probably spent more time in the principal's office that year than anywhere else. Mom and I laughed about that years later, but we both would have said that was probably the hardest year for both of us. But a lot of fun. Through all of the years there was a railroad crossing directly across from the First Baptist Church that connected that whole end of Northside Drive really with town. That's where everybody would cross the railroad and come to town. And many of us would walk on Sundays. We'd walk to churches. And during the week, there were people that would come and walk across that railroad crossing and go to the post office. But that crossing, as well as some others, were discontinued. And so for a long time, there was nothing there whatsoever. And my dad would come down there and he would see Miss Waits and a few of the other senior adult ladies who had forever walked across that crosswalk right there on the river, trying to get across in the rocks and just the rails and try to get across, and he saw it. So he began to talk to the railroad about putting a crossing there, just wide enough to walk across so that the people wouldn't have to go through all of that to get to town. And of course, everybody in town said it would never happen. You couldn't get the railroad to do anything, but through the help of the mayor, he finally was able to get that done. He had a lot of willpower and a lot of staying power, I think, where I believe he was told no more times than anybody might expect to be told no. I went to West Georgia College in Carrollton, Georgia, and that's where I met my wife, Susan, and that's where we were married. And I taught school for a few years and realized that was not my calling. I fought it for a long, long time. I had known it, and Miss Susan, my wife, said she knew it well prior to when I decided to do it. I had done several other jobs, but I couldn't find any kind of peace or contentment. Deep down inside, something was just gnawing at me. So when I was 37, I entered the ministry. We put our house on the market, decided to go to New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary in New Orleans. The house didn't seem to be selling. And about the time we were doing everything with New Orleans, they had decided to open a Marietta Center at Roswell Street Baptist Church in Marietta. And so we just went right there and began our seminary training. She was able to continue to teach school here. And then that's when the First Baptist Church asked me to come part-time and work as an assistant to David LeGrand, who was the pastor. We love it. We love it. Just the improvements that are made here. I cannot say enough about the mayor and the city council and all of the citizens that have turned this town into what it has become. When Susan first moved here with me and we began, so many of the buildings here in town were empty, and they were emptying out at that time. And she would say over and over, she would say, Bill, this town is just missing it, just missing it. You know, we see all of these vacant buildings and all of these different things there. And to come home now, and it's just wonderful to see all of the different businesses that are here, all of the improvements, all of the street lights and all of the sidewalks. We just look forward to every trip here.